I'm on the hunt for a new daily. Don't worry, the Magnum isn't going anywhere. I'm getting buried in that car. I just have too big of plans and ambitions for it, and trying to find the time and honestly the confidence to go forward with these has definitely halted this. Trying to squeeze these bigger and bigger projects in on my weekends off, knowing in the back of my head I still have to drive to work or school on Monday is a very scary thought to me. The Magnum being my only mode of transportation hit me like a brick wall in the video where I was installing the SRT rear end because I felt like I bit off more than I could chew pretty much every time I turned off the camera. So ever since then, I've been on the hunt for a new daily. In fact, the perfect daily. However, I'm still gonna be a little picky. I have 4 main criteria to even consider purchasing a car as a new daily driver. Number 1, it's gotta be at or below around $2,000. But the farther below that bar we can make it, the more we have to reinvest. Number 2, it's gotta be comfortable. On any given day, I'm driving around 50 miles, depending on school, work, and whatever other activities I've got going on. I'm not driving around in a tin can with bucket seats and a 5-point racing harness. Number 3, it's gotta get decent gas mileage. This one is definitely lower on the totem pole compared to the other criteria though. The car that I've been driving for the last 5 years gets 18 miles to the gallon on a good day, but being able to downgrade from 91 octane will definitely help the pockets. At least a little bit anyway. And number 4, it's gotta be a little cool. Come on now. Now this does narrow down our options quite a bit, and that $2,000 price ceiling usually requires some elbow grease to come with it, but that's nothing we're afraid of around here. The first cars that come to mind when you think cheap, reliable dailies are things like your Toyotas, your Corollas, Hyundais, Kias, Geos, etc. These usually check all of our boxes, except for rule number 4. So we shift over to the more fun stuff like your Hondas, Acuras, Rangers, and the occasional Volkswagen. Side note, there was an '89 Jetta that, had I moved a little quicker, would honestly be the subject of today's video. There is a big ol' asterisk next to this category though, because with these kinds of cars, you have 2 main categories, either super clean and unobtainium, or clapped beyond repair. There's not a whole lot of in between. Which brings us to our final category and my personal favorite, the granny mobiles. And really, there's only 2 car companies that should even come to mind with this, Ford and GM. And just to narrow it down even more, there's really only 3 platforms we're talking about. The Panther platforms, B bodies, and W bodies. Now your B bodies are gonna include things like your late 80s, early 90s Caprice and Impalas, or it also includes things like the Cadillac Fleetwood, the Buick Roadmaster, and the Caprice and Impala from the late 90s. The arch rival to these, however, are things like your Lincoln Town Cars, your Grand Marquis, and your Ford Crown Vics. However, thanks to a Mr. Hell Yeah Brother, these are becoming in the same category as things like our Hondas, Acuras, and Rangers. Unobtainium or clapped. I could have looked into the Ford LTD, but this is getting a little outside of the age range I was after. And last but not least, the W bodies. I am gonna exclude things like the early 2000 Impalas, the Grand Prix, and the Pontiac Bonnevilles just because of the kinds of people that typically own these. Again, unobtainium or clapped, not a whole lot of in between. But no need to fret, Buick is still alive and well with things like the LeSabre, the Century, the Regal, and the Park Avenue. However, there was one listing that would come and go, calling my name like a siren in the ocean. Anytime a potential lead would fall through, whether it be because I wasn't moving quick enough or the owner was a little on the sketchy side, this one would come back day in and day out. And after 6 months of watching the price drop and drop and drop, I finally decided to send the guy a message, and after a short chat and one visit later, the beloved 3800 was basically in my hands.
Auto Show Concept Cars. Cars with exciting features like supercharged engines. Finally, someone's built one for you. Introducing the 1995 Riviera, with an available supercharged engine that breathes deep for maximum power. It's amazing what a breath of fresh air can do. The all-new Riviera by Buick. What a concept.
This is a 1995 Buick Riviera with the supercharged 3800 Series 1, making 225 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. This black-on-black, full-leather interior, 3,800-pound two-door boat features 8-way power-adjustable seats with not one but 2 heated seat settings on the driver's side, automatic power windows, automatic power sunroof, power-adjustable mirrors, and most of all, the still fully functioning auto-leveling air ride. And with only 148,000 miles on the dash, this was all mine for $800. Well, of course, there's a but. In the listing and in talking to the owner, he did mention that the car was not currently running and the battery was pretty much donezo. This is going to take about another $200 or so out of the budget, maybe closer to $300 if you want to include the tow truck. However, after talking to him, with a brand new fuel pump and a couple miscellaneous sensors replaced, we know our problem is spark. But don't worry, I have a plan. After doing a little digging through some old forums and asking around on my different Facebook groups, there are 2 main contenders as to what would be causing this: crankshaft position sensor and the ICM, or Ignition Control Module. In asking the Facebook groups, I was told an easy way to diagnose which one was the culprit: when turning the key to try and turn over the engine, your tachometer should move. If it doesn't, you have a bad crank position sensor. If it does, it's your ICM. However, most people did agree that it was likely the ICM because when GM was designing the 3800 and similar V6s, rather than having the engine harness plugged directly into the coil pack, they have them sit on a plate, the ICM. The engine harness plugs into said plate. The plate is what sends the signal to the coil pack, and then the coil pack sends the spark. But because it grounds through the plate, it can build corrosion over time. This causes it to fail. I did decide to go ahead and preemptively buy the ICM because it seemed like the easier of the 2 fixes and the likely culprit. It has been proven that aftermarket ones are always garbage, and an OEM AC Delco one runs about $200 just for the control module. So we took a little jog over to the holy grail that is LKQ Pick Your Part. We got our ignition control module and 3 new coil packs, all for about $60. We did have to dig through about a dozen cars, but eventually we did find what we were after. And some pretty clean examples if you ask me. As long as the tachometer moves, we'll be good to go. With the tow truck backing down the driveway, we put in our new battery and turn the key. Once we watch the tachometer, we'll plug in our new control module, our 3 new coil packs, and it'll be roadworthy in no time.